At the time of this recording, tomorrow is the 1st of January 2019. Woohoo! That means that you're probably thinking about setting some New Year's resolutions. Don't. Squash players shouldn't be setting New Year's resolutions or objectives mid-season. The best they should be doing is reassessing the objectives they set earlier in the year, pre-season. I plan to make a video early spring which will cover goal setting and the types of goals that squash players can be setting themselves, but until then, here are 5 C's to make sure that your 2019 starts with a bang. Hello everyone, I'm Philip, an ex-professional squash coach. Now I make videos aimed at club players who are really looking to improve their game. But the videos can be used by beginners or more advanced players as well. I generally make longer, more detailed videos that cover the what, the why and the how. I cover 3 aspects: the physical, the technical and the mental. And the mental aspect is so often underappreciated and neglected, especially by club players. So I tend to make quite a lot of videos about that. You can see the frame. On the left, you can see the title of the video for quick reference. On the right, you can see which aspect is covered in that video because it's highlighted. Many times, more than one aspect is covered. Along the bottom, you may see some quick link jumps, but if you want to jump to various parts of the video, you can find those links in the text description. So if there's something that is interesting to you, you can go there really quickly. So let's get started. Okay, so here's a table of contents to allow you to see what's going to be discussed, but also allow you to jump quickly if there's something of more interest to you. Number 1, commitment. There is no substitute for hard work. Number 2, concentration. What should you be concentrating on when you're on court? Number 3, consistency, both in your training schedule and in the shots that you play on court. Number 4, challenges, and how having a very small but attainable goal makes you work harder and smarter. Number 5, change. It's a new year, so it's a new you. Number 1, commitment. As I've already said, there is no substitute for hard work. If you want to improve, you have to accept the responsibility yourself and know that you're going to have to put the time and the effort in over a longer period of time. It seems that society is always interested in the quick fix, the shortcut. You only need to go on YouTube and you see lots of videos, maximum amount of gains in a minimum amount of time. And sure, nobody wants to waste their time, but don't think that long-term improvement will come from very short ideas. Okay, you can watch my videos or other people's videos. You can talk to somebody down the club and get some advice. You can even buy a new racket. And those things will help you improve your game, but only in the short term. You need to commit to hard work. Hard work means doing the things that you need to do, not just the things that you like to do. And the things that you need to do, well, I don't know at this point because I don't know anything about you, but you probably know that you probably need to get on court more, you need to practice more. Not just play games with your friends, but work hard at improving. Going back to rackets for a moment, I'm surprised at how often people keep talking about rackets, the weight, the balance, the tension of the strings, the type of strings, almost as if that's going to be the panacea for everything that they need. Their game's going to suddenly improve when they get the right racket. Let's be clear here. The racket is just a tool which allows you to demonstrate your skills and abilities. It does not give you those abilities. You can walk into any art supply shop and buy the most expensive paintbrush. That does not make you a great artist. Sure, having the right racket that you're comfortable with is important, but great players can play with almost any type of racket. So don't look for shortcuts, expect to have to work harder over a longer period of time. Improvement is actually quite easy. The process is easy. But it's hard work, and many people don't like that idea. But this year could be the year that you change that. The year that you become one of the people who work hard over a period of time and improve and keep that improvement, not just one of those quick fixes. Commit to working hard with the limited amount of time that you have available. I understand that you don't, or everybody doesn't have hours and hours to work on their squash every day. I certainly don't, and I know that most club players don't. But whatever time that you've got available, commit to using it effectively. Hard work. Number 2, concentration. And it's a word we often hear in relation to sport, and it's difficult to actually say what is it. But it's the idea of focusing on the things that you need to, cutting out the distraction, cutting out your emotions. Now, I can't tell you exactly what you have to concentrate on, but I can give you 4 ideas that should help. Number 1, watch the ball hit the strings. Yes, I know I keep saying it, and I'm not going to apologise for keep saying it. It's because I believe it's one of the fundamental things to improve your game. Keeping your head still will give you better balance, it will make the timing of the ball better, and it will tell your opponent less about where you're going to hit the ball. Watch the ball hit the strings. Number 2 is preparation. Preparing early for the shot, whatever type of shot it is, allows you to hit the ball better. By preparing early, you give yourself enough space and time to do what you want to do with the ball. And talking about doing what you want to do with the ball, number 3, know exactly what you are trying to do with the ball. If you're going to hit the ball down the wall, don't say to yourself, don't think, I'm just going to hit the ball down the wall. No, say to yourself, I'm going to hit it just below the cut line. It's going to bounce on the back line of the service box, and it's going to take its second bounce very close to the nick, or at least in the back corner. And when you do that, it wasn't luck. If you simply hit the ball down the wall and it bounces second bounce in the nick, that's luck. By knowing exactly what you need to do with the ball, you're more likely to do it, and concentrate on that. Now, if you don't know what you need to do with the ball for each shot, well, that's something that you need to learn. That's something that you need to ask people, something that you need to work on. And number 4 is getting back to the tee as quickly as possible. You don't believe it, but watch the professional players, or at least very high level players, and what you will often find is that they get back to the tee faster than they get to the ball. You don't want to get to the ball too early. If you get to the ball too early, you lose your momentum, and you need, or you want to use your momentum to hit the ball cleaner and harder with less effort. So what you should be doing is hit and move. Hit and move. Think about that all of the time. Hit and move. In many cases, your follow through will be the thing that pulls you back. So those are the 4 things that you can concentrate on that should help improve your game. But the main idea here is don't think about anything else except what you are doing. Number 3, consistency. Now, consistency is about 2 things: the consistency of your training and the consistency of your shots. So let's start with the consistency of your training. What you need to do is you need to commit, that was number 1, you need to commit to hard work for at least 6 to 8 weeks. Anything less and you're not really going to see the benefit. What's important is that you don't take too many breaks between each of your training sessions, but you also don't do training every single day unless you have enough time and unless you have enough energy. So training for at least 6 weeks, 3 times a week preferably. If you've got more time, that's fine. And remember, there are lots of different types of training. There could be technical training where you work on the solo court and you working on your skills, or there could be fitness training, strength training, flexibility training. There can be lots of different types of training, but whatever you do, it has to be consistent. You can't just do a lot in a short period of time and then think that you can take a longer break. You are not a professional, but that doesn't mean that you can't work hard. I recommend that club players should be saying to themselves after each training session, did I work about 80 to 85% my maximum? Because that's about the right amount. Anybody who tells you, yeah, I did 110%, that's rubbish. You can't train to your maximum all of the time. And as I said, you're not a professional anyway, so you have to be sensible. But 3 times a week at 80 to 85% for 6 weeks, whatever it is, will really bring you big gains. It will really make a difference rather than 100% for 4 weeks, 4 times a week. You might get injured, and that's really important. As soon as you get injured, you've broken your consistency. Jonah Barrington used to talk about, after each training session, another one in the bank. And imagine that, Each training session is $1, €1, £1, or whatever currency you use. It's in the bank, it's building up. But if you only do a few training sessions, well, it's not going to work. And it reminds me of the joke about the person who said, I've got out of bed every day for 1 year. That means I've done 1,000 sit-ups. Why don't I have a six-pack? Well, because of course the break between each time you get out of bed is 24 hours more or less. So the consistency is not about just the long term, it's making you sure that you do lots of little ones in between. Now the second part of consistency is to do with consistency of your shots. Now imagine that you hit 1 in 10 this tight to the wall and 9 in 10 this tight to the wall. Now imagine you hit 10 out of 10 this tight to the wall. Which do you think would be more difficult to play against? Well, obviously this one. Yeah, when you hit the ball this tight, you might get a winner out of it, or you might not. You might get a weak shot which you can hit a winner. But I can guarantee that when you're hitting shots this far away from the wall, you're not putting your opponent under pressure 9 times out of 10. When you're hitting this tight to the wall, you are. Because although it's not touching, it's still gonna get into the back. It's still this much further away. Now think about that for a second. The difference between this tight to the wall and this tight to the wall is a racket head. And if you can consistently make your opponent go that little bit further, you're going to tire them out. And it's not just straight drives, it's cross-court drives, making sure that your shots are consistently in the back corner, below the height of the waist, hitting the sidewall. Your boasts are not either this close to the tin or this close to the tin. If you could get all of them this close to the tin, that would be much better. So what I want you to do is the next time you go on court, see how consistent your shots are, and you will find that the higher the level the player, the more consistent they are. And it means that when they're hitting most of them like this, well, a few are going to be like this as well, and that will cause your opponent problems. Reduce the margin between your best and your worst, and you will notice a big improvement in your game. Number 4 is challenges. It's very important to set long, medium and short-term goals. And you should be doing that, as I mentioned in the intro, at the beginning of the season. But thinking about those long-term goals all of the time doesn't help you concentrate, doesn't motivate you, doesn't make you work harder. I remember reading a story about a swimmer called Mark Spitz. Mark Spitz was an Olympic gold medalist. And what he did was, he realized to get the time that he wanted, he needed to improve his time in the pool by 1,000th of a second each training session. Now, we can't do the same kind of thing for squash, but what we can do is we can take that idea, break it down into the simplest idea possible and focus on that. Because when you're thinking about this big idea, you're not thinking about what you should be doing. So what I recommend you do is the next time you go on court, set yourself a mini challenge, a challenge that is attainable but not easy. And I'm not talking about things like the number of points particularly, or beating a player, because sometimes that's not in your control. Maybe the player is much better than you, and even if you played the best you've ever played, you might not beat him. So think about things that are within your control. Examples would be, I'm going to hit more volleys. I'm going to try to hit more volleys. Maybe his shots are too wide, but you're trying to do them. I'm going to hit more straight shots. I'm going to hit wider cross courts. I'm going to get back to the tee as quickly as possible. I'm going to play more defensive lobs or counter drops. It doesn't matter. You look at your game and you think about it. If you have the ability, record those matches and look at them afterwards, and then decide, have you attained it? If you haven't, don't worry. Move on to the next time. Don't panic about that. Just focus on doing your best at that moment and then thinking about the next one. Break things down into small, manageable chunks, and you will be able to think about the future another time. Think about the now. Number 5 is change. As I said, it's a new year, so it's time for a new you. Take this opportunity to set the tone of your training, playing and practicing. When you come off court with somebody, they should say to you, there's something different about you. The way you played today, or the way you approached it was different. And you can say, yep, it's a new year, it's a new me. If you're the kind of player who always goes for quick winners, change. Become the kind of player who picks those shots more carefully. Yes, you will feel it physically, but so will the other player, and that means that you'll be getting fitter. If you're the kind of player who just waits for opponents to make mistakes, change. Play shots that create opportunities for you, but don't cause yourself too many opportunities. And there are lots of different types of shots like that. Change also could be introducing something new. If you've never played defensive lobs or you don't play very many cross-court or straight volleys, introduce them. Add one new shot to your repertoire this year, at least. One new shot that you've never played consistently before. It doesn't have to be like this crazy cross-court nick-off or service return. I'm not saying that, but just widen the variety of shots that you've got available. And even if you play the same kind of shot that you normally do, but your opponent knows that you now might play a different type of shot, that makes your shot down the wall, for example, a little bit more effective. So the fifth one there is change. Well, there you have my 5 C's for 2019. I'm sure that they will help in some way. I'm curious to know how you begin your new year. What strategies do you have for making sure that it's an effective and positive new year? If you like this video, please consider giving it a thumbs up. And if you didn't, well, I suppose a thumbs down. But tell me in the comments what you didn't like so I can improve my videos. Talking about comments, I respond to each and every comment, so if you've got any feedback, any suggestions, any questions, any doubts, don't hesitate to post a comment and I will definitely reply. Sleep and rest are an integral part of improvement. They are not something that you do because you're too tired to keep working out. Imagine that you went on a bicycle, a spinning bike, and you spent 12 hours on that spinning bike. And now imagine that you spent 12 days on a spinning bike for 1 hour a day. At the end of 12 days, which one do you think is going to give you the most improvement? Well, of course, it's the one where you did 1 hour per day, because your body had time to adapt. Resting is when your body changes. When you do strength work, it's when you do the strength work, it's when the muscles break down. The rest is when it becomes stronger. When you do flexibility, what happens is your muscles don't actually stretch to become longer, they grow longer. The rest is as important as the exercise. The key is not making it too short and not making it too long. Now, talking about too short, there seems to be a trend at the moment about how little sleep you can get and how that makes you more important or that makes you busier or something. That's rubbish. Don't buy into that idea. Sleep is so important. I remember reading that Roger Federer says he gets a minimum of 8 to 10 hours every day. Sleeping is not wasting your time, it's giving your body time to repair. Obviously, it's part of the idea of the rest, but it's not exactly the same. Your brain needs time to assimilate things, and if you've done a lot of technical work, you're working on your swing. If you don't sleep and you're not fresh when you try to do those things again, you won't be able to put in practice what you've learned. So, rest and sleep should not be taken lightly. They are part of a structured plan that helps you improve. Don't neglect them. In a few moments, a subscription button will appear down here. Please consider subscribing if you think my channel's content is worth watching. But if you do, be sure to turn on notifications bell so that you get informed every time that I release a new video. Up here is a video that YouTube thinks is a really good fit for you based on what you've been watching. And down here is a playlist of 5 things, a collection of videos all about 5 different ideas. And remember, do something every single day to improve your squash. See ya.